Welcome to the third round of the FDC. The league had grown and we now had 15 cars on the grid for this event, and the qualifying session certainly felt like there were more cars involved than the previous rounds, as you had to be careful to build a gap to make sure that you could get a hot lap in without being too close to cars ahead or behind. But again, it was Recycle Finn on pole, with Justice in second position. So eyes on Justice in the white and red car on the left, as this time around Recycle Finn didn't get the best of starts, allowing Justice to jump ahead out of the first corner. So finally we had a wheel beating a controller pad out of the first corner. Despite this being the first FDC race for several of the drivers involved, we had a pretty clean first corner. The only squeezing that happened was from Recycle Finn, as Recycle Finn and Tulsa were so close that Tulsa got into a no-grip spin, which put him down into last position. But other than that, it was a pretty clean first few corners. The replay was thanks to one Dorian, as my replay didn't work. And from his view, we can see, starting in third, the incident between Recycle Finn and Tulsa, where Tulsa gets a bit squeezed to the right, had just enough room but still got into a spin, and I think a little bit more room should have been given there by Recycle Finn, just for the sake that it's a friendly league and the game is kind of unforgiving with the physics. Just a little tap and then, there you are, back into last position. I had a slightly better start than my last outing, so I was actually prepared for the lights to go out this time. And again, I qualified down the order, but not by much, so my pace wasn't looking too bad. And the same plan as usual. There's Bumpy Flump going a bit wide. I didn't see the incident with Tulsa, and then Bumpy Flump gives it a little dive, and I think it goes a bit too hard there, damages his wing a little. So yeah, just intending to survive the first lap and look for any positions I can take. A little bit of contact with Bumpy Flump. I tried a few different setups in practice, but I couldn't find anything that clearly made my car go faster without sacrificing some kind of stability, so I just left it on a pretty safe setup. And I think that actually served me well, because I was able to be consistent with this. Without full race replays, it's not clear exactly what these little incidents here were caused by, so I don't want to say if it was driver error, if there was contact or what, but some cars were getting a bit out of shape, and I just focused on my race and tried not to think about having to review incidents later. So I got the toe behind Jason and tried to make a pass down into the braking zone at the end of lap 1. China's not my favourite track, but I guess I've got some experience with it over the years, as it's been on the F1 calendar for a while. So maybe that gave me a slight advantage, and the fact that I'd a little bit underfueled the car, as I took a lot of the spare fuel out because I just quite often don't tend to use it. So I might have had a slightly better pace advantage than the cars starting around me. And I think the fact that a lot of them were battling with each other, I think, slowed them down a bit. Because obviously if you have to go defensive, then it's not going to do your pace any favours. There's some parts of the race I was wishing that I had a little bit more fuel in the car, just so I could turn it up to mix 3 on the straight. I tried to get a good run up for the last corner so that I could have a go at Blackbeard. So some good clean racing with me and him, allowing me to take a position and then go after TJD, who made a slight mistake. It's not the easiest corner to go side by side with someone into, as it tightens up at the end. And there's TJD's mistake, and the cars ahead as well were fighting, so I just want to close up to them. And then Italus looks like he bumped his front wing on Limbo. I don't know if TJD here was trying to avoid Italus, but he ran a bit wide. And a lot of my focus was just making sure I wasn't going to run into one of the cars ahead. And sure enough, that focus paid off, because I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it looks like Limbo just went wide, and then his car was back on track to be avoided. So I took to the inside and then just fought my car as I got a little bit out of shape. And I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but I was sandwiched between a few cars, and as far as I know, Blackbeard had been hit by someone under braking, so he shot straight ahead and his car struck Italus, so that was unfortunate for them. So I'd started down in 13th, and just through being careful was now up into 6th position. But I quickly had Bumpy Flump looking to regain his position. But it felt like the right time to dive into the pits, so went onto the yellow tyres. And on the pit exit, I think it's just the cold tyres that caught me out. I went a bit wider than I'd intended to, so I squeezed Limbo, and then wanted to make sure he got the position back afterwards, because I didn't want to squeeze him really. Because quite often when you're on cold tyres, you just get so little grip in the Codemasters F1 games. And there's Alien Outlaw off track. Not a great race for him. He ended up retiring, I'm not sure why. And then I'm not sure if Limbo went wide here, or if he was just taking the wider line through the corner, but it allowed me to go up the inside. And then I was in the dirty air, which seems to make it so much more harder to get the power down early. So I kind of felt like I was stuck behind him a little bit, especially through here. If you're in the dirty air, then it just gives you a little moment extra. You need to get the power down, but then once it's down for this straight, you can really get a toe on someone. And especially if you get DRS, you get enough of a speed advantage. But as I said earlier, I didn't really have the fuel to burn for moves like that. So next time I think I'll take a bit more fuel. But Limbo did well to hang on, so held his position. So I looked at the last corner to get a good exit, try and get a run on him into turn 1, and of course the DRS helped. And initially it looked like Limbo was going to cede the position, so he fell in line, and I went a bit to the outside, but then Limbo, I think accidentally there, ran wide, and Blackbeard battling with someone ended up going wide into me as well, so I got the bad end of the stick there. And obviously, it wasn't intentional, and he apologised afterwards for it, and he just wasn't having a good race. I think he ended up being on the wet tyres in this dry race, which I don't think should be possible. It is, but I don't think it should be. And yeah, his car was running quite slowly. I don't know if he was trying to let me go through or what, but I was just very aware that something wasn't right here. And then again he slowed down, and it turned out he was just going into the pits to retire. So yeah, not the best race day for him. So Bumpy Flump caught up to me on lap 8, and then I missed my braking cue, because I think one of the braking markers on the right was missing, and I usually brake the one after the first one, which is the 100, so I just got mixed up thinking the 50 was the 100. Went too deep, which gave the position to Bumpy Flump, so he made a clean pass on the outside, and then I just don't think I really had enough extra fuel to burn for this, so I'd taken so much fuel out of the car at the start, and yeah, the position was his pretty much. But then he got a little bit out of shape on the last corner, which gave me the opportunity to make a DRS pass. And it's good battling with Bumpy Flump, because he's a clean racer, and our race pace was fairly similar. Then he got me back on the straight again, So I went to focus on getting him on the last corner, but he started getting away. So I had a wild ride, starting in 13th, getting up into 6th, but then my race started going backwards until my game ended up crashing at lap 10. So a bit of bad luck, and that's why my race replay didn't work, and I couldn't get back into the game. But fortunately the session continued for everyone else, so on board with Justice, as he was running in first position but was overtaken by Recycle Finn, and then Recycle Finn managed to hold on to that to win, and then Justice crossed the line second ahead of One Dorian in third. Another good qualifying session for Recycle Finn, on pole with a good margin of nearly an entire second to Justice. TJD had a good race, starting 8th on the grid and getting 4th. Mido in 5th. Coloured Loney had a bit of an interesting race, ended up in 6th position. It's on the harder tyre, compared to everyone else starting on the softer red tyre. Tulsa in 7th, Limbo in 8th, Bumpy Flump in 9th, Italas, the last of the points finishers, in 10th, Jason in 11th, Ginger in 12th, and then a game crash for me, so a retirement in 13th. Alien Outlaw, I'm not sure what happened to him, but a retirement there in 14th, and then a retirement for Blackbeard in 15th. So Recycle Finn now making a points gap in first position on the standings. Thanks to everyone for the clips that they offered me to use in the video. It's especially helpful on this one since my replay didn't work. And thanks also to Alien Outlaw for the FDC logo. So that was the roller coaster ride of round 3, and hopefully my game's going to work for round 4, but yeah, we'll see you then.